In my second game ever, I joined a campaign where it became obvious to us players that the Dungeon Master was always in a rush. Roleplay? Let's just get to the combat. Combat? Ugh, it's been a whole half of the first round. Can we just say you guys won already? Stealthing around the enemies? You just teleport there without any rolls so we can get it over with. The part of this campaign that you reminded me of was the latter half, in which the Dungeon Master became really gung-ho about leveling us up constantly, and multiple at a time. We just started at level 3, but when we hit 5, it was like bam, bam, bam. You're level 9 now. This happened over the course of like 2 fights. For those of you who don't play D&D, or for those of you who haven't memorized a challenge rating chart, in 2 fights, this party went from being ready to fight slightly larger than average rats to fighting young friggin' dragons. A natural power progression. It was one for me though, because the DM randomly decided it wouldn't fit for my character to join into the party's tournament arc that the DM got bored of and ended early anyway. When we finally refused to level up, it was in the lead into the final battle. The DM had just hand-waved us being level 9s. We all prepared for this final fight. Then, right after some role-playing, some trash talk between the 2 colliding forces, the DM goes, actually, this doesn't feel epic enough. Do you guys want to build level 20 versions of your characters? And we'll do this again like a week from now? Dude, I made that power progression joke way too soon. Went from fighting rats to fighting dragons to fighting freaking gods. To which we of course refused because we had just spent the past 3 periods between sessions leveling up, and we were hyped as heck for the finale. Cutting that off to do, well, more bookkeeping felt like a waste. We ended up having a lot of fun with our characters as they were. I know that power progression in D&D is generally a mess, and we all make the jokes about going from goblins to gods throughout your campaign, but for the love of all things holy, come on, this style is doing nothing to help with that problem. Recently, I remember that Dungeons & Dragons was not my first outlet, and reminded me that yes, I do have a horror story to share. The characters in the story are myself and the problem player that we'll call Edgy. This was some point back in 2016. My mom took me out to dinner, and we were actually talking just now about how 2016 was traumatic and horrible. Glad to know I'm not the only one. Anyway, yeah, back in 2016, we still use Skype for video chats. I was brought on as a moderator/writer for an anime role-playing group after this one fell apart due to a problem admin. I have no experience with this, but it felt like it might be a fun enough time. We needed a few more players after losing some in the transition, and found 4 new people, which included Edgy. Edgy was the type of person who needed to be the center of attention, often making homophobic or racist remarks to pull said attention over to himself, and he would even make jokes about y'all are really trying to get this demonetized, aren't you? I mean, how does a joke like that even work? Like, you're all dark and brooded, and all of a sudden...
Joking!
See, I love Shadowheart, and it didn't even work there. Oftentimes, he would have his roleplay character attack other people or use powers that were not okayed by us. None of the mods were the confrontational type, including myself, so he got away with a lot with just a slap on the wrist. This culminated into 2 events. I noticed one player had gotten much time to shine as her character, so I wrote out a villainous foil for her. While she played a mother who had lost her family, this villain was the type to sacrifice anyone to get what he wanted. He even had rain powers to fight against her weather negating ability. Man, I thought the Flash TV show was scraping the bottom of the barrel when it came to superpowers, but y'all one-up them. Weather negating? You're just like, oh crap, I forgot my umbrella. No rain. I mean, at least it's not an overpowered OC. The villain was held up in a water tower outside of town. There was a lot of trouble getting there, but eventually the player scaled the tower with Edgy tagging along and came face to face with this madman that makes it occasionally rain. Sorry. Everything was going fine until the very end of the fight. The player picked up the villain by the throat and was about to deliver a speech until suddenly Edgy had his character walk up and stab the villain to death. And we were pissed. Edgy refused to change his actions, claiming it was too boring otherwise, and not wanting to cause things to escalate, I relented, but told him if he did something like that again, there would be consequences. Nothing that problematic would happen for the next couple weeks or so until we hit the next major event in the story. All the mods had our eye on Edgy to make sure no funny business would happen, but I don't think any of us were prepared for what happened next. I just revealed a major NPC helping the party had been killed, an NPC that many of the players really liked, but of course, this wasn't about Edgy, so he had to do something to make it about him. He sat down in a chair next to the body and described the life leaving his character's eyes. He just unlifed his character in front of every other player. We're gathered here today to honor the sacrifice of an old friend.
Not really paying attention to me. I'm losing the focus of the...
Hey, did you say something? Nothing!
I'm losing their focus. I need to be able to get the spotlight back on myself. They're all focused on this NPC's heroic sacrifice. That's it.
Your memory will never die.
Ugh!
Gerald, what are you doing?
This sickness will claim me soon.
Are you sick? I'm a cleric. I can cast Cure Wounds on you if you...
No. It's too late for me. Go on.
What?
Live with my memory. Mourn my loss. Remember me forever.
Okay. So anyway, our friend here...
Are you gonna pay attention to me?
No! How? Why?
Look, they sent me back. He was really annoying, okay?
None of the writers were told about this little plot detail, and he never even managed to make a backup character. The entire server went quiet at that point as I quickly messaged him saying he can't just end his character like that and force him to roll back this weird death. At that point, Edgy threw a tantrum in the general server about how he's never taken seriously and he never gets to do anything cool. To be fair, what this group apparently considers cool is Weather Wizard from The Flash, but with like half his powers. So, come on, not a high bar. I'm sorry. Anyway, one of the mods eventually grew fed up enough to kick him from the group. At that point, the mood was shot for the rest of the day and pretty much the rest of the story. We rushed to finish it and we tried to move on, but eventually we just dissolved the group. I'm still friends with a lot of the people from that roleplay group to this day, but asking around, I seem to be the only one who really remembers this story. First, I'm genuinely sorry for clowning on your Weather Wizard group. I'm not trying to be a jerk, I just think it's funny. But what I find interesting about this is that what Edgy is doing is not by any means the worst thing we've ever seen. It's obviously very disruptive, randomly killing characters in the middle of important roleplay moments, trying to off your own character just to get some attention from the rest of the group. Those are really bad things and is a sign of somebody who really wants the spotlight. But I think the reason why these people reacted the way they did is because of this person's past behavior. At the end of the day, these are not the worst occurrences ever, but combine them with the fact that this guy is being homophobic, he's making inappropriate jokes, all those remarks melded with this behavior, it just is a recipe for people really not liking you at all. If you want attention, you need to give people a reason to give you attention. You need to be, likable. If they hate you, it's going to be attention that you really don't want. I joined this table where it's a world that has a war that's going on that's escalated to one of those war to end all wars, where this will change the world forever, and we were trying to make sure this war has an outcome where the world benefited from it. Overall, the campaign was pretty epic with all different factions being so different and large-scale battles. This was a good 90 hours of gameplay in total, but there was one player that made 30 of those hours absolutely excruciating. This player was notorious for being quite selfish and always trying to ensure the survival of his own characters, sometimes even throwing a party member under the bus to do so. And whenever the party did something selfless, he would complain, cry, and moan like a child. Whether it was freeing slaves, retrieving food for starving villagers in a famine, or getting a stolen family heirloom back from a robber, he would complain the whole time. See, Astarion does that too. But he has the charisma to pull it off. Or suck it off, I should say. Wait, I meant as a vampire pun, not as a... Anyway, it's the difference between giving and being a... You know what I mean? There is this place in the world known as the Paradise, a place where there's plenty of food and nice weather, but the only people who can go there are people who are pure of heart, meaning that people will use it as a safe haven from the war. In this quest, we were supposed to escort a refugee family to the Paradise. The mother was pregnant, the father was very sick, their son was blind, their daughter had anxiety, but they had each other, and the whole party essentially unanimously decided to help them because we weren't heartless monsters. Except, of course, this guy, he just said no and got confused when we started doing the quest. He said that because he said no, they can't do the quest because the whole party has to agree. The DM herself said he doesn't need to do the quest. He huffed and stomped, but he went along with us. Throughout the mission, which took a couple hours, he was acting like a passive-aggressive dick. He would make snide comments and jokes about the son being blind, and I have to admit, some of them were pretty funny, but eventually I just got fed up with his whining and said he could either shut up or get his butt on the bench, which eventually he did. After the quest, he had the audacity to say that we can't do side quests anymore because they're boring filler and slow down the game, which hurt the DM's feelings, as she put a lot of effort into making the world feel big and loved writing the side quests as they added to the campaign's world and made it feel lived in. I'm actually curious how people feel about this, because right now I'm playing through Cyberpunk 2077 for the first time after doing Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm noticing how I feel different about the side quests in Cyberpunk versus the side quests in Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know what the difference is, but in Cyberpunk, the side quests don't entice me as much yet. I'm just starting out. Whereas in Baldur's Gate 3, I was immediately very invested in doing every little thing I could possibly find and Googling stuff after I realized that, yeah, the world feels so much more lived in when you engage with it. Obviously, these are both video games, but they are based on tabletop, so maybe there's something we could learn here. He then doubled down, saying he just wants the campaign to end and we're forcing him to play, and the only reason we're here is because he can't have two games going at once.
Hey, man, I realized that you haven't really been having a fun time at the game. Is there something wrong?
Look, I don't know how to tell you this, but I just think your game sucks. Yeah, well, you have no choice but to stay. Don't even think about trying to leave. This is an active hostage situation. Make no mistake about it. Please.
The rest of the group are really having a good time, and... Hey! Are you paying attention? Hey! Hey!
The DM is on the verge of tears at this point. Apparently, he doesn't want to play and is just here out of obligation. The entire party voted him off the table, and he both looked annoyed and relieved by this. We got back to playing, and it was amazing. Also, since I was the only one who was praising her for having such a well-written side quest, the woman gave birth to unexpected twins and only came up with a name for one of them. And they named the other baby after my character, so W.
What?
If your character has a name like Dovahkiin, I'm gonna lose my mind. But anyway, yeah, guys, don't treat your dungeon master like this. Oh my god. Look, it's okay to critique your DM. That is perfectly reasonable. However, there is critique, and then there's just being a dick, and that's what this guy was doing. Also, you're not obligated to stay in a D&D campaign, and telling your DM that is horrible. I don't know about you guys, but one of my top anxieties is that the players are only sticking around because they're obligated to. That's a ridiculous thing to believe. People don't just show up for 4-hour-plus sessions on each and every weekend because they're obligated to. They show up because they're having a good time, but anxiety never makes any sort of sense. Someone confirming that, though, and doing so in a spiteful way? Oh god, I could only imagine. Oh, and finally, if you don't have the maturity to accept when you've been outvoted, you might not want to play a collaborative game. You're not always going to get your way. Sometimes the will of the team is going to override your individual wants. Basically, this guy wanted it one way, but I'm sorry, man. It's the other way. So, a bit of context for these stories. Both are relatively short alone, but longish together, and are from two different games. Both were games run by the same dungeon master. My friend group for both of these games is about 6 strong, but there's only 3 people that are relevant to the stories. Roderick, the problem DM, Sally, a female friend of the group, and me, self-explanatory. For a bit of backstory, I'm in the Navy, and being a nerd in the Navy, one of the best ways to pass the time when you're in the middle of the ocean with no internet or any real connection to the outside world is to just play Dungeons and Dragons with your friends. Just about everyone in our friend group, including myself, have DM'd while underway to keep things interesting and fun. At one point, we had multiple games running at once to accommodate for everyone's schedules, different games for different players, so everyone was at least part of one game. At the time, I was still identifying as female. I'm now a trans man, but my gender identity is a bit important to both these stories. Roderick was someone that I had fallen in love with. He was funny, creative, and eccentric, and I thought I had a chance with him. He finally told me after 2 months of pinning and flirting back and pining.
Hey, stop it.
I've never flirted with anyone. Anyway, after some back and forth, eventually I learned that he had a girlfriend, to which I stepped back. Eventually, due to both of us being cut from the outside world for months at a time and him constantly pressuring me, we formed a secret relationship. To this day, I am ashamed of and not proud of in the slightest. For people who will get mad at me for being the other woman while knowing he was in a relationship, I recognize my behavior was wrong and do not condone it.
And you must be better than me. Understand?
The relationship was cut off when we made port and he proposed to his girlfriend. Oh my god. Oh boy. This is gonna be juicy. Look, I'm a drama girly. What can I say? Roderick was running a Power Rangers homebrew campaign, can't say I've seen any of that before, where each of the characters was a Power Ranger with their own Megazord and abilities and backstories. My character was Anubis Kruger's daughter, and the whole part of her story was that she hated the idea of following in her father's footsteps, but she was going to grow into becoming a Power Ranger and reshape a bond with her father. She was a rebellious adult. I forgot how old we were in-game, but I'm gonna make sure the executive decision was that she was 21. Anyway, yeah, she didn't want anything to do with her father's legacy. She was the baby of a large family. Thankfully, my character arc actually went through okay, but something happened within the story that normally could be seen as a minor inconvenience, but gave way to bigger problems in later games. My character had brought along a slightly dysfunctional little mechanical gecko who I named Bean. I wanted him purely for cosmetic, roleplay companionship, to give my character a softer side that she really showed, always having a hard and angry exterior. Sally's character had gotten a mechanical wolf that was meant to be a combat familiar, something to aid her in battle. I got little Bean around session 2. By session 6 or so, we were deep into the game, and a mechanical corruption was spraying to our Zords and our mechanical companions. Bean perished, along with all of our Zords. I swear, I better be pronouncing that right. It's a 4-letter word. But Sally's wolf survived, as well as getting a boost to all of her stats and abilities and basically becoming overpowered. To me, and others in the game, this seemed unfair, but Roderick's only explanation as to why Ben died was that he was too small and too weak to fend off the corruption, and the wolf was able to harness it instead. Why our all-powerful sentient robot mech suit/spaceships couldn't do the same thing is beyond us, but my character lost her only outlet to being soft. I rewatched Legend of Vox Machina recently and was chuckling about how Trinket is treated in that series and how Trinket the bear was treated throughout Critical Role. It's hard to do pets right. There have been entire videos on how to do pets in tabletop role-playing games and D&D, but using them as a mechanism for dating, gotta say, that's a new one for me. About a year after this, Roderick and his fiancée broke up, only for him and Sally to start dating. Needless to say, he both led me on because I was gullible and idiotic, and was trying to impress Sally by favoring her in the game. It was hurtful since I did kind of hope that we would start dating, but I eventually got over it. Fast forward to me realizing I was transgender. It's been about a year or so since that incident, and both the relationship between Roderick and Sally and the Power Rangers game flopped. So Roderick decided to make a Disney/Kingdom Hearts-based game. Yes, after cheating on your girlfriend, losing your fiance, losing your other relationship, and then losing your Power Rangers game, the natural next step in your evolution is to become a Kingdom Hearts fan. That makes sense. Each character is from a different Disney movie and had their own character arcs to follow. My character was a shy tiefling paladin who was a were-dragon, something he was... Wait, hold on. Which Disney movie is he supposed to be from? I don't know about you guys, but I remember no tieflings in Beauty and the Beast, or were-dragons, whatever. He was afraid of being called a monster and hunted down and killed for being what he was. The DM gave me the option to keep the information to myself or tell the party. He was even the one who came up with the idea for my character. I decided to keep it from the party until I could have my one spotlight moment to reveal his secret. Either he would transform in front of the party when they were in dire need of it mid-battle, or he would trust the party enough to just outright tell them. He was from the Treasure Planet world? Never seen that one. Are there were-dragons in that? And the only person who knew about his condition was Captain Amelia. I loved her character and really wanted a good bond with her in game, but Roderick never actually played out that part of their dynamic. Sally's character from Session 1 was given the main character spotlight. She was given essentially fourth wall-breaking powers of being from the IRL world and knowing all of these worlds were fictional. Some characters were unaware that other worlds even existed, so this whole thing felt completely unfair, but we just ignored it at first. Reminder too, this is after Roderick and Sally had broken up. Session 1 was the party boarding Captain Amelia's ship with the same crew that was on it in the movie. It ended with the threat of a battle foreshadowing Session 2's ship battle. Some people were on cannons while others were throwing spells. I had reserved myself to casting spells off the side and waiting to heal others, but the entire session, Roderick was hinting for me to have my character transform to help in the battle. Eventually I gave in, and my character revealed to the entire party and crew of NPCs that he would transform into a dragon. An entire game's worth of character growth and development was rushed into 2 sessions, and after that, I had no interest in the game whatsoever. It only ran for about 2 more sessions in which I only half listened to what was going on. The rest of the party finally got bored when he told us that because he forgot to give us loot for a boss fight we completed the previous session, we would have to fight that boss again in order to get it, despite him being the one who forgot to give us the loot in the first place. He's still in our friends group group chat, but we no longer play D&D with him. I keep him at arm's length with little to no contact. Yeah, keeping this guy arm's length is a good idea. I mean, he cheated with you on his girlfriend, and while obviously, you know, I don't know a lot about that dynamic, I've never been in a relationship before, I imagine it's not the highlight of your life, and you seem to want to move on from those mistakes and become a better person. But moving on from those mistakes, well, that also probably means moving on from him as well, especially since he doesn't seem like he wants to grow. On top of that, he's just kind of a garbage dungeon master. He's got issues with favoritism, and his games seem incredibly disjointed from where I sit, so yeah, I think it's best for you just to leave this all behind. As I always say, you can always choose to be better, and I think you are making that choice, even if this guy might not be following you. The title is an exaggeration, but that's how I felt at the time. I still like this group, and we're still playing together, but this one situation was quite something. This is the same group as the Sir Loveless. Oh no! Linked in the cards. If I remember, that is. I probably won't. If I don't, yell at me in the comments. Quietly. The cast is the Dungeon Master, Rogue, a quiet tabaxi player, Cleric, a dwarf worshipping a homebrew love goddess, and Warlock, me. We are currently part of a story where we get swept off into local politics. Basically, the crown are the good guys being screwed over by nobles that want to squeeze the populace for every coin possible. We gained the trust of the king, and he tasked us with an important mission to escort a team of spies and specialists to another city. Basically, something about us being unknown to the nobility would keep the team safer than the King's Guard. So we head out, and what do you know? We immediately get ambushed by a ton of bandits.
So why exactly are you hiring me for this job? Well, our Royal Guard is quite famous and wear distinct uniforms. I know we could probably change, but the point is that our guard is recognizable. You are not, and therefore the caravan will probably not be robbed. Okay, so for me and my group, it's gonna be a bit safer because we're not gonna be recognized. Exactly. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Safe, simple job.
1 hour later.
Gerald, how many of these guys have we killed? Yeah, let me check. Carry over the 1. Yeah, it looks like we've killed like 15 of them. Okay, more importantly, how many are there left to kill? Like 20? No, hiring us is starting to feel really pointless.
Not much of an issue for our party though. We're level 5 now, and I start slinging fireballs for my fiend patrons spell list. Some of the bandits try surrendering, but we decided that's not worth keeping them alive, and we'd rather reap some juicy XP. Okay, by the way, the OP clarified that the DM penalizes you for sparing enemies. You only get half XP. I have my own feelings on XP. I prefer milestone, but if you like XP, that's fine. And I think it would be really cool to have differing rewards depending on if you go lethal or non-lethal. However, penalizing you for sparing enemies, which often requires a more creative solution, that just sucks. Have fun with your murder hobos, because that's all you're gonna have. Anyway, murdering the bandits. We get to the last one. The DM says, please don't kill me. I'll do anything you want. You can have my body. Anything. Let me grab the other Crispies. I need a full recreation for this next bit.
So are we just gonna kill her like the rest of them? No, can we just let her go? It wouldn't be consensual anyway.
The DM is just making things worse by having her undress while slowly saying, I consent.
Well, she said she consented, and my faith requires that we let all consensual love flourish. But me and Ro can't partake, because we're a couple.
My life. So we keep bickering while that poor bandit girl is laying there half naked. I keep insisting we just let her go, and the rogue fires back with something that still gives me whiplash. So what, you're against sex workers? Sex is a commodity, and this way, it is freely given as intimate work. No, not at all. I support workers in the intimate field and would probably accept her offer if the other option wasn't that she dies. Rogue accused me of having a double standard because I was so happy to kill the other bandits that didn't offer up their booty. I could have handled the situation better, and there probably were better arguments I could have made, but I just wanted to move on. So I said, fine, I'll accept her offer and spare her life. So I had my character go back to the girl, kiss her on the cheek, and say, there you go now, and that kind of diffused the whole situation. Cleric thinks it's valid enough, and we can move on. What the fuck? I I don't think the DM took it very seriously. He was grinning the whole time during the argument from what I could see on camera. It was clear from the start when I joined this group that intimate themes would be a thing, including possible non-con stuff at the hands of the baddies to other NPCs. DM awards full XP for kills and half XP for sparing yielding enemies. I think our rogue got mad at me for denying her full XP by wanting to spare the last bandit. The only situation so far that truly made me sweat was being put on the spot like that. How would you have handled it? Dude, I'm bailing and telling people that they can do this game without me the second an NPC starts doing something like that. Consent at threat of death is not real consent. I mean, come on. The way the party and the DM looked at this was just... man, it was real weird. And if you want to act like that in your own private games, sure. Alright, whatever. That's your thing. But I just... personally, I don't want to be a part of it at all. Now, this group did consent to non-con content, which, yet again, not something I'd be interested in, but it's your own private time, you do what you want. However, what I read was that it would happen between NPCs, not with player characters involved, and certainly not with player characters being portrayed as the perpetrators, which, man, that is just real disgusting. Of course, I'm not talking about this like it's my shoes. I'm not playing the game, the writer is. And if you want to stick around, more power to you. But for me, I'd be bailing as soon as I can. Alright, and that's a wrap on today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. Stayed up a little bit too late doing a D&D game, but I'm back to work on this series. So if you guys enjoyed, then please leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tip series, where we cover advice for both DMs and players, old and new. While you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. I just want to let her go to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way to get a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.
Dang, this shade is way darker than I thought it was when I was out at Sephora. Oh my god. Anyway.